Welcome back to Channel Water. Today we're going to talk about the war on hate. And it's a very sensitive issue, but we're going to try and make some clarity in what it is that we're doing. Our society is constantly trying to bridge over the gaps of separation and improve the conditions of the human experience and the way we treat ourselves and each other, which is one of the same. Years ago, I was trying to think about what is the source of the problems we have in society. It seems like there were so many different ways that people were judging and hating each other. So whether somebody was not approved because of their sexual orientation, because of their race, religion, we had so many different kinds of ways that people were persecuted and judged by others. But something else was at the core of all of that. The more I was thinking about it, the more I could just narrow it down to it's just hate. It's just a certain type of judgment that someone has towards others, and that translates into a specific brand or a specific kind of hate. As we saw different sections in society fighting for their rights and one by one achieving their right. But at the same time, it felt like we're not moving forward. We're just establishing certain language, like new language and new ways of talking about it, but it didn't really change the way people were feeling about each other. At the time, I made a sticker that said, "War on hate with love," knowing that it's actually a contradiction, because if you truly don't have hate in your heart, you will never go on to war. So the war on hate is really an internal process that each one of us goes to eradicate hate and judgment from our heart. But then the real way of moving forward is really with love. That's the only way you can battle, if you want to say that, hate and judgment. The reason I'm making this video today is because we have moved away from using the word hate. Now we start branding hate into a lot of different categories, and we start creating theories and really make hate into something much more intellectual than it is, much more segmented. And with that, we are actually supporting those theories of separation. So, as you know, here we always say there's only two options. You either hate or you love. You either hate everyone or you love everyone. You might not know it, and it might be under the surface, and over time you and people around you will find out how you truly feel about the world. Are you seeing everyone with judgmental eyes or with loving eyes, accepting? And we have a whole video about what is love, which is more about that. Here I just want to make sure that you understand what you're doing when you brand hate into subcategories. Because what we're doing is we're actually removing people and their ideas one step away from that, from the understanding that you're just a hateful person. The fact that you hate, judge a certain section of society doesn't mean that you love everyone else. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that are happening. We allow people to think, okay, you hate only this group, so let's say you're anti-Semitic, so you hate all Jews, but you love everyone else. To that person, that's acceptable, because that's exactly what they come with. It's some theory that there is a segment of society that is different from me, and I can judge them, and that's okay. But I love my dog, I love my family, I love the plants and birds. But the reality is that that person actually hates everyone. It's just a hateful person that doesn't see that all those different subcategories they made are just illusions. And there is no separation. By hating one person, you hate everyone else. There's no difference. So if somebody makes up a theory about a race, and they believe that there are divisions within humanity into different races, and now you call him a racist, you're adopting their language, first of all. You're supporting their theory of separation. You validate it, and then you also give them a pass by saying, okay, we know that you hate this one race, or people of this color, or people of this religion, or people of this sexual orientation. And we shouldn't agree, first of all, to their language and to their theory of division. There is no separation. If we agree to it, we give them a pass. We say, okay, that race exists, and you're hateful of that race, whether justified or not, whether I accept it or not, that's all it is. And it has a much bigger effect if you tell somebody what they are. If you tell somebody you're a racist, they'll say, yeah, okay. If you tell somebody you're a hateful person, you get a very different reaction. They'll do everything they can to prove to you they're not a hateful person. And most likely they cannot, because they are. So that's why it's so important that we don't brand hate. We don't move away from what it actually is. And we put it in those words, simple words: love, hate, everyone or no one, no middle ground. The reason it's a sensitive issue is that many people will not agree because they don't want to be a hateful person, or they don't see at that moment how if I hate a certain group of people, I also hate my family, I also hate my friends. But actually you can show them and you can see it very quickly. There's many cultures and religions that don't approve, for example, marriage, union between their people and another group, another separated group. And they'll go to the extent of, we don't accept these people, we hate them, whatever. But let's say your son or daughter falls in love with somebody from that group. Some cultures, some religion will go to the extent of killing their own child because they did something that is not acceptable within their theory of separation. So you can't tell me you don't hate your own family if you go that far to kill your own child because they fell in love with another human being that for some reason, illusion, delusion, you believe don't belong, that are separated, that should be hated, that we should not be mixed. Any race or color or whatever you want to look at people, as we move forward in evolution, we're mixing more and more, and there's less and less traces of what even the group is. Like sometimes you see people and you have no idea even what they are. They could be a quarter of each different race that you can imagine or think, combinations of different religions. So the further we move forward in evolution, the less division there actually is, both visible and theoretical. But you can see how hate and separation is trying to hold back from that and not let people move into that direction. And we know even as far as DNA that when we stay in our own small groups, it's not healthy, it's not good for our bodies and for our children. The more we diversify, the better it is. So cultures that don't allow diversity, and some of them even encourage having marriage and union between as close as cousins, if not even closer, they have a lot of problems and issues. So we can easily see that when we prevent love, unity, when we prevent the movement towards all different kinds and all people, we're actually causing problems. We're not supposed to be segregated. We're not supposed to be divided. There are no different sections. There's no separation within the body of humanity. And for that reason, we always go back to hate and love, because that's the only thing that really exists. No other division and theory is real. And it's even more problematic when we have a whole culture or religion based on those ideas of separation and hate of the other, not accepting other religions. Because sometimes you think, how can somebody be moved into a place of killing their own child? That's so extreme. But it's really their fear of judgment by their own community. What will my family say? What will my community say? And they actually do say it, and they do humiliate the people and cause them to be so afraid that they act on it in the worst possible way. So it's important to see how it's not just the one individual, it could be a whole culture, a whole point of view. And any religion, any culture, any society that doesn't promote unity and diversity, that promotes segregation and separation, is not moving in the right direction and is not helping humanity move forward towards that unity, towards that loving and accepting place. And really it's for the health of humanity. It's not just to say you should go out and hug and kiss everyone. It's just not to judge, not to hate, not to cause that fear and violence that follows it. When we look back at the individual within those communities, you will find that usually that hateful individual, more than anything, has self-hate, self-judgment, fear-based. All their actions, all their doing is based on fear. And that's led by all those thoughts in their heads that are seeded in by the community, family, everything around them. And it's a very miserable way to live, both to be constantly afraid, constantly in self-doubt, self-judgment, and it's hard to find comfort, and people lose their grace. In that place, you are not able to do the right thing, you're not able to find that grace and the compassion and acceptance in your heart. And then as you make mistakes, everything becomes even worse. That spiral keeps going down of self-judgment, self-hate, and acting out of fear. Going back to the title of the video, War on Hate. So I just want you to understand that part, that the only way to fight hate is to take it out of yourself. Is for you to realize, reach that full understanding that all humanity is one body of consciousness. In the video, What is Love? We really dive deep into how you are everyone else you meet, and you have no right to judge them. So, once you take out hate from your heart, you will not engage in any type of war. You will not engage in any type of friction. You will really lead by example, with your acceptance, with your love. And that brings us to another part of this. A sentence I wrote around that same time was, if you use force to bring change to the world, you have brought no change at all. And that's so important to understand, because especially today we see a lot of people try to force change through violence, and that never works. So again, if you use force to bring change to the world, you have brought no change at all. The only way we can solve those issues is leading by example, creating education and educational systems, acting out of love with no judgment, no anger or frustration. And I'll show you a few examples of what does it mean, how do we act in this world. Because people do make mistakes, people do hurt us, people do crimes. There are criminals out there. In the most simple way, we have a justice system. So if somebody acts in a certain way that is criminal, you let that system do its course. So you don't get hurt, so you don't become a criminal too, so you don't take on what just happened. Not always we can find justice within the system. But again, you have to be careful because, for example, if somebody kills a person, let's say, so now we have one murderer and one victim. And let's say a mob decided we're going to take justice in our own hands and kill the killer. Now you have more murderers. Now you have more killers. The outcome is worse. And a lot of times people in that heated moment of passion don't realize the damage they're causing to themselves. Because you fool yourself if you think that you can kill someone and feel okay after that and feel that you did the right thing. It doesn't matter how much you justify it, you will carry that for the rest of your life. Even if you just hurt someone, even if it doesn't matter what, once you take on that same act that that criminal did, you're not different from them. And by that act of hate, the original one, has now multiplied and like a disease infected you. So that's one reason why using force is never the answer to that. It's never a way to fix something, especially on your end. If as a society we decided that somebody's going to go to jail or whatever sentences they're going to get, that's a different thing. It's not something you will carry with you personally. It's not that you now have been infected and have done the same hateful act that was done to you. Another aspect of that is, let's say you want to bring change to society, to understand that hating a certain group of people is not okay, or a certain way of behavior is not okay, and you use force to bring that change. What happened is that you actually used violence to bring change, to force people to behave differently than the way they used to. So now these people have been violated. They don't necessarily understand what you're teaching them or the reason for it. They're acting out of fear and conditioning to the situation. And by that, the problem is that you might get a temporary change, but it's not sustainable because they didn't understand the reason. They didn't understand that they're hateful and how they need to change to be more loving. They're just going to take a certain action to prove to you that they're not that specific thing you claim they were, that they hate only this one group of people or they do just one action that hurts them. So these people now carry that only out of fear, only out of conditioning. They don't understand it. That means they can't pass it on. They can't teach it to the next generation or to people around them. All they can do is pass on the fear and the fact that they were violated. And sure enough, they will become victims now. And they'll do the same at some point. So force is never a mechanism for change, at least in the social way, right? It's matters of the spirit, of the soul. This is not the material world, where force is where you use to bring change, to move things around. So that's just a really important moment to understand. If you want to change society, if you want to change the spirit, the way we feel and act, it has to come through understanding, education, example. If you have two hateful people meeting, trying to resolve an issue, what do you think will happen? There's absolutely no way that a resolution will come. But if you come to a hateful person that obviously is hurt and has issues, with a certain amount of love and understanding, it doesn't mean you allow them to act in that hateful way, but you give them an opening to actually see that you are not their enemy, first of all. Your intentions are not bad. and you're not feeding into their hate, into their fear. When you don't feed that, that actually disappears. And there's a chance for a real conversation, for real progress. So just think of it as a disease. There's love, there's hate. Either there's more hate or there's more love. Which one do you choose to be, to become? Also, we need to understand that a lot of those groups that are hateful, whether they're cults or just some social structures, whole religions, countries, some of them, they feed off of your hate. The only reason they exist and are able to continue to exist and gain more people into their group is because of your hate and judgment. They use that. They use that to say, look, they hate us. That's why we have to stick together. We are a group. They hate this about us or that about us, or we're actually giving them the ammunition they need to keep people and have people join their group, because they sell them this idea that there are people out there to get them. There are people that hate them. That's just a classic cult, any cult. That's the first thing they'll do. Like, we have something that they don't like, and that's why we have to stick together, guard it, keep it. And all they're doing is basically guarding and keeping their separation, their illusion of a difference, illusion of a superiority, or something that they have that we don't. But if you don't react to them with that hate, judgment, then they can't use that. Then they can't hold people back from interacting with us, talking with us, opening up to the world, and seeing that actually the world is not a bad place. If you think about it, it's so insane that a small group of people can be convinced that the entire world is conspiring against them, that the entire world is evil, other than this small group. And there's so many of those small groups out there. So it's a really interesting dance here, and you have to see your part in it, and how you might be feeding and helping them create those little groups by us judging them, rather than knowing how to approach it in a much more sensible and loving way, basically. Understanding where they're coming from and how to help them heal and actually come out of the hate that made a home in them. Another issue that we created recently by branding hate into all those different categories is that we have created a hidden layer of people that are hateful, are violent, are judgmental, but they don't know it. They think what they're doing is totally fine. And they live in their own little bubble that makes them think that they are out there fighting for some type of justice. And that exists on all sides, all the spectrum. It's not a political statement. It's just once you categorize and brand hate, if you believe that you don't belong to any of those groups that you have created, you might feel that, well, as long as I'm not racist, anti-Semitic, homophobic, or from the other side, you don't believe that you belong to any of the groups that are on the, basically we're talking about far left, far right, then you think that you're not a hateful person, that what you're doing is okay. And you might be fighting for your cause, again, using violence, being judgmental, being hateful. And what you miss here is that you're actually being played, you're being used by one of those groups to get you upset, angry, frustrated, emotional, and to act on it in the way that they want you to act on it. So I hope you can understand that part where there are many people nowadays that are being used and abused, that are hateful and judgmental, and they don't know it. Their groups on their side is giving them a pass. You can see how divided the country is right now, which is fine, that's part of the design, but it's the extreme. It's when we get to the extreme on both sides and how much they show hate and violence towards the other, right? So you are still a hateful person, even if you don't fall into the categories you made. If you believe that somebody that's a racist is the worst person in the world, but then the way you react to them is in a hateful way, a violent way, you're not different and you're not better. If you are not able to react to it with grace, with love, you can be firm, you can be assertive, you can stand for what you believe in. But the minute you turn into a hateful person, then you lost it. So right now, and this is really the hardest part, is to look at ourselves and really see inside, am I a hateful, judgmental person, even to the worst people in the world that I think that are the worst? And it's almost, I guess, because we made so many subcategories to hate, we forgot the bigger structure. Just hate, just love. What kind of a human you are. Which group do you belong to? And belonging to that group is an absolute. You either love everyone or hate everyone. So when you truly realize that, you will also love the people that are, in your mind, your worst enemy. And that is the only way out. Otherwise, you're just falling into the trap. You're falling into what they are about. If you truly believe these people are hateful people, they truly hate this kind of person and that kind of person, this action. If you truly believe that, why do you want to become that? Why do you want to turn into that? So, I know it's hard to hear and hard to let that go because there's so much emotion involved in that. If I feel that something unjust happened to me, and now all of that is coming out because something unjust has happened to somebody else, then I'm really acting out of my personal emotional place and where I was hurt in the past. But this is the moment you can actually see that you've been hurt twice. The first time that somebody hurt you, that was it. That was the action. At that moment you got hurt. Physically, mentally, emotionally. The body can heal. The mind, if you actually understand what happened, you can forgive, you can heal. But if you don't, so now the person that hurt you has put their hate, anger, judgment, that spirit, whatever caused them to do it, is now in you. Now you turn into a hateful, judgmental person. You have this anger nesting in you, that frustration. That's the second time you were hurt. That one lasts longer. It actually lives inside of you, and now you're acting out of that. So that's why it's so important to see that when we don't react properly to something bad that happened, when we don't react properly to hate, we get hurt twice. The action of that hateful event and the fact that hate is now nesting in us. And now we just became another pawn in that war. But now you're on the side of hate and not love. Everything I share with you on this channel is part of my personal journey, my personal understanding over the years, and the changes I've went through myself, both personally and in understanding the world in general. And I remember the hardest moment was when I discovered that I was judgmental, that I did have that in my heart. And even though I was not acting on it, that's how I saw the world. I would look at people and see those things that were, from my point of view, judgmental. I didn't see us as one group of people. I didn't see it. And it was difficult. But the moment that I acknowledged it and admitted it too, to myself and to others, and then I was able to truly understand that there's really only those two options, and to truly see how to love everyone, then the world changed, everything changed. And the reason I say that is because I don't want you to think that I'm lecturing you about something that I didn't go through myself. Because the moment that you discover that you have that judgment in you is difficult. It's not easy, because none of us want that or to be that. Nobody does. But we should be happy at that moment where we can see that we can see that it's there, and then do something about it. Because for the most part, in most people, we don't see it. We don't see that it's there. And we definitely justify our behavior through the many things I said before, through those categories and those illusions and those, whether it's religion, politics, culture, the cult you're in, whatever ideas are poisoning our mind to think that judgment and hatred is okay. So I just want you to take that with you and see that this is the first step. The first step is to see it. And you could be a good person that has never done anything wrong. But if that judgment is in your heart and you keep it to yourself, but it's there, nesting, you know it, and it's affecting your life. It's affecting the way you walk into situations. It's affecting the way your thoughts and mind is controlling you and tricking you into thinking that people are bad, things are bad, situations are not what they really are, and you're not present to that moment. So it's important to not be hard on yourself, and at this moment start not judging yourself, not doubting yourself. Just see that this thing has somehow made a home in you. And if you go back to the videos Family Fluid Dynamics, you can understand how a lot of those things have made a home in you, and it's not you. There's something in you from the past, from your environment, from some hateful act that happened to you that is causing you to be judgmental or to have that anger or frustration in you. But see it for what it is. Call people what they are. Don't give it other brands, don't give it other names, don't make it less than what it is. In this world, there is hate and there is love. And you can only be part of one group, and you can only love everyone or hate everyone. And it's up to you. So I hope this video could bring some clarity and help you resolve issues in your personal life, professional life, relationships, whatever it is that is affected by that. And you will see that you will wake up to a completely different world once you switch to the group that loves everyone. It wasn't easy to make this video today. It's a very sensitive issue and topic to talk about, but I hope it helps in some way. And if you have any questions, then maybe I can clarify it even better. And thank you very much for watching today. We'll see you soon.